Well, a prism can be used for a number of purposes. One that we've alluded to at least is to do timber cruising, where you're establishing plots in which you're measuring every countable tree, and the prism is a very effective way to do that. You can do it with one person very easily, and you're sampling the trees proportional to the value, which is proportional to diameter. But another use of the prism is to make a quick estimate of stocking. Stocking being based on some metric on a per acre basis. There are different ways of looking at stocking. For example, you could count the number of trees that there are per acre and express it that way. So a per acre basis, and that could be in a sense a sort of index. You could compare a couple of stands. This stand A has X number of trees per acre, stand B has 2X number of trees. And it turns out that you can use a prism to do that. It's a little more complicated. Or you could use, you can imagine, the fixed radius plot. If you're using 10th acre plots, you count all the trees within a 10th of an acre, multiply that by 10, since you're only sampling a 10th of an acre, and you have an instant measurement of the number of trees per acre based on a 10th acre stand. So trees per acre is one type of index of something we call stocking. But a convention that we use a lot in forestry is one called basal area. So basal area is based on the idea that at 4.5 feet above the ground, there is a circle represented by the diameter of that tree at 4.5 feet. If you took a chainsaw and you cut the tree at 4.5 feet instead of stump height, you'd have a disc that you're looking at. You could measure it and add up how many square feet are represented by that disc, maybe 1.6 feet or something like that. And if you did that on every tree per acre and added up all of those discs, you'd have an expression that was expressed in terms of square feet of space at 4.5 feet on a per acre basis. And the prism allows you to do a very quick estimate of that. And it turns out by comparing estimates among stands, you have estimates of stocking. So to do a quick example, we're out in the open now in a sort of a picnic area in which there are scattered trees. But I'm using the criteria we did a minute ago of the image in the prism. I'm going to just simply count the number of trees that would be in, meaning the image within the offset image within the prism overlaps the stem above it. So I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and again, I rotate, not the prism, 8, 9, 10, so there are 15 trees at the point at which I'm standing that are considered in based on this overlap in the offset image. With a 10-factor prism, all I have to do is take that count that I just did, multiply it by 10, and now I have an estimate of basal area expressed as square feet per acre at 4.5 feet above the ground. That is, that's that inside area of a tree, of all the trees that are in. So 150 square feet per acre. So what? I might go to another area and do the same thing, and maybe I only get 10 trees that are counted. 10 in trees times 10 is 100 square feet per acre. So based on basal area, the stocking of this would be 50% greater than it would be somewhere else. So the use of that is this. Over time, with a great many number of measurements on different sites, different species at different ages, foresters have learned where the ranges are of stocking that represent optimal stocking for good healthy forest and for good growth on the best trees. And so foresters tend to know that. So for instance, for loblolly pine in the Piedmont, if I were in a pine stand instead of this open stand where diameters are very large because it's sort of this picnic area, if I were in the woods and so you got 160 square feet per acre because I counted 16 entries with this, that tells a forester that there are too many trees growing out there, that the competition is getting to be a little too intense, and the appropriate silvicultural treatment that is needed is to do a thinning to reduce basal area, perhaps down to 85 or 90 square feet, which foresters by experience know brings it down to the level that you should see those growth rings picking up and taking off that we saw in the increment core. So basal area is one expression of stocking for which a lot of norms have been determined that can be used to talk about the health of a stand, the productivity of a stand, and this is Prism is a very quick way of getting that index.